will finally be speaking out about the chaos that erupted during President Zuma's State of the Nation address last week. The presiding officers will be addressing the media later on this morning. But to look at ahead what's going to be happening in Parliament, we joined in the studio, in our Cape Town studios, by Judith February, Senior Research Associate at the Institute for Security Studies. Morning, Judith. Ahead of this debate today, I mean, there's been a lot of tension. Do we expect that tension to continue today in Parliament?
Good morning, Dan. I certainly think so. I think that if one looks at the Economic Freedom Fighters statement that came out after the Chief Whip's meeting yesterday, which they did not attend, it seems as if it might be more of the same. Although the EFF were clear to say that they want to act within the rules and so on, it's difficult to see how things might not descend into chaos if there's no agreement between the parties. And certainly on Thursday, when the President actually responds to the debate, which will happen today and tomorrow. And also we've seen that the Speaker has opposed the application that's happening this morning in the Western Cape High Court, brought by SANEF, the Right to Know campaign, and Prime Media and others. And so this shows that she is in a belligerent mood, and so I don't see things calming down anytime soon. And at the same time, you have a president who remains unaccountable, and many unresolved issues around Thursday night.
And also later this week, the DA, I understand, will be in court, of course, as well, in terms of the use of police, the way that the police were used in the National Assembly last week. So the differences are still there, the challenges are still there. And from what I understand, Judith, I mean, EFF was not wrong to ask a question. I mean, the point of privilege, they can do that. It's not been tradition, though, in terms of the State of the Nation address. Hi, Judith, can you hear me? We seem to be having a problem with Judith. She was hearing me earlier, but we're not getting through to her now. I'm just going to try one more time. Judith, are you still there? Can you hear me in our studios?
Yes, I can, Dan. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you seem to have missed my question earlier there. I was saying, yes, you're quite right. The tensions are simmering, particularly as well because we understand later in the week the DA will be taking the matter of the use of the police in the National Assembly last week to court later this week.
Dan, exactly. It's crucial that this matter be cleared up, because what we saw on Thursday night was police, or whoever they were, entering the House in white shirts, not uniformed, armed. And we need to know on what basis the Speaker called armed people into Parliament. Now, Section 1 of the Powers and Privileges and Immunities Act says the Speaker may do that if there is a public order policing issue. Now, one could argue that what was the public order policing issue when the EFF MPs were asking questions? Also, what Section 11 of the Powers and Privileges Act says is that an individual, if there is somebody who's causing a disturbance in the precinct, that individual may be removed by security services. It's unclear whether the use of the word person also refers to an MP in the chamber. The Democratic Alliance wants to test that, and I think that is important because, Dan, I don't think we can underestimate the import of what happened on Thursday night. The Chamber of Parliament is where democratic deliberation and debate has to take place. What we saw on Thursday night was brute force replacing democratic debate, and that is a slippery slope if we're going to go down that route every time the Speaker is unable to not show her party colours and control the proceedings of the House.
Yes, and I think the role that Baleka Mbete is playing is also going to come under scrutiny, the debate. Do you think today, when they start debating the State of the Nation address, the focus would rather be on these kind of things than the speech itself that President Zuma delivered last week?
I really do think so, Dan, because I'm not sure whether anyone can remember anything of what the President said. I thought that he abdicated his moral and ethical responsibility by simply carrying on speaking, making his speech while all this fracas had happened right in front of his eyes. And there's an appalling series of pictures which shows him laughing at the scenes of the EFF being brutally manhandled as all of their MPs were ejected. And somebody has to be held to account for that. And I think that nobody remembers much of what the President said. It's a pity because in a country where we have so many challenges, we're being sidetracked by all of this quite authoritarian behaviour. And so I suspect that the opposition parties will be hammering on these sorts of issues. Diana, I really think that the Speaker of Parliament's position has become untenable. We saw on the weekend that she had made comments in North West against Julius Malema and other EFF MPs,
Judith,
calling them cockroaches.
the ANC has said she was making those comments as a chairperson of the ANC. Should we not be separating that, or is it not possible to separate the person of Baleka Mbete as a chairperson of the ANC and as a Speaker of Parliament?
She is clearly unable to separate the two. The problem is she is a senior office bearer of the ANC, but also she's personally politically ambitious. And one can see that her responsibility to Parliament as an institution is being abdicated. And first and foremost, she wears her party hat. And what I think, Dan, was disturbing about those comments is that there will be an investigation, we hope there will be, into the events of Thursday night. The Speaker played a key role there, and she's already out in North West name-calling members of the opposition. She cannot be non-partisan. She has shown herself to put party loyalty ahead of the institution of Parliament, and as such, her position is untenable. There's a conflict of interest, and she should resign or be removed from her position.
That's Judith February. Thank you very much. She's from the Institute for Security Studies.